Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. So, we have an exciting topic today. And
Oh,
so,
baby.
this article comes from money.com and it is titled, Here's What's Next for the Housing Market After a Massive Realtor Lawsuit. My name is LaShawn Abraham. I am a mortgage loan officer and sales manager here at Gill Mortgage in Somerville, South Carolina. I am half of our team, Abraham, alongside my husband. And today we are going to unpack this article that has been flooding this and many other ones that are very similar, that has been flooding the internet, social media regarding the National Association of Realtors lawsuit that just got settled. What does it mean? How does it impact our industry? How does it impact you as a prospective buyer or seller? So let's get right into introductions and then we will jump right on in. Mr. Abraham.
Yeah, man. People know us by now. But Gavin Abraham, your mortgage loan officer, guys. We're here again on this platform just to give some insights, some jewels. Talk about some things that may be unsettling out here in in the world today. But most of all, want to give you guys great information and resources for all things about mortgages and real estate. So I'm glad you're tuning in, and I hope you get something out of today's message for today.
Yeah, Mr. Barry, Mr. Barry, introduce yourself.
Wilmont with the Bear Group, brokered by EXP Realty, serving my clients here in the Orangeburg and surrounding areas. I'm a realtor, and I'm proud to be a realtor today. And we're going to talk about this because, oh man, this is going to affect the industry, and I'm excited for the topic. So yeah.
Me too. So let's jump right on in because I feel like this 30 minutes is going to go by so fast. So just to set this up. So, like I said before, there's so many articles floating around in regards to the lawsuit that was just settled with NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. And so the first paragraph says that the U.S. real estate industry was shocked last week when the jury in a class action suit against the National Association of Realtors and two major brokerage firms, which is Keller Williams and Home Services of America, they decided to conspired to keep real estate commissions higher than needed. And after a 2 week trial that ended October 31st, the jurors awarded the plaintiffs $1.78 billion in damages. And
Mm.
now, this right here is pretty much talking about when it comes to selling property and the listing agent's commission, which is typically anywhere between 5 and 6% of the sales price, that cost is usually passed on by and to, the seller. So, what does this mean? What does this mean? How does this impact? What is it going to look like in the future? So, let's talk about it today.
What up, Not?
So, go ahead, Gavin. Were you going to say something?
Oh no, I was telling EJ what's up.
Oh, okay. Yes. Hi, EJ. All right. So, Wilmot, you said, I am a realtor. So, what does that mean? I mean, you list homes, you sell homes, right? Is there a difference between listing and selling homes? I mean, are they one and the same?
Um. So if I can just do the terminology right, when you list a home, that's the listing agent. They represent the seller. Okay.
Okay.
Um. A buyer's agent may
Hmm.
still sell that home. Okay.
Okay.
But they represent the buyer. Okay.
And
Buyer's agent, listing agent. So yeah, that's kind of similar, but a little bit different. So yeah.
so this lawsuit that came out in regards to sellers who typically pay the commission to both the listing side and the buying side of a transaction. Why is this even a topic? Why was this a lawsuit? Why was there, some type of upset, not happy campers, you know, trying to figure out why they're paying so much money? So give us a little bit of history.
So there was a story, but I'm really not trying to get into that story because I don't know all the specific details
Mhm.
to it. But pretty much is, if I could sum it all up, the buyers were not able to negotiate their commissions with the buyer's agent. I'm gonna say that one more time. The
Mm-hmm.
buyers were not able to negotiate their commissions with the buyer's agent. All right. So it was a big hoopla about that, saying that the commissions were higher than what needed to be. And also, I think what you just read, they were like, hey, this could make, home prices cheaper, possibly. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I'm gonna give
let
a
me
lot
ask
of
you
my
this
opinion
though.
on this episode, but
Let me ask you a question though, because you just said something, right? So you
yeah.
said that the buyer was not able to negotiate the commissions, right? And so typically in a transaction, how things has always been since I've been a mortgage loan officer and so forth, the seller is the one who paid the actual commission to the buyer's agent. So why is the buyer wanting to negotiate something that they wasn't even paying?
Okay, so that's oh man, you about to go there. So yes, for those of you that don't understand how this works, typically, when a buyer's agent meets a client, right, meets a person, not a client yet, meets a person, all right, and they want that agent to show them homes and be their agent. You have to do what we call a buyer's agent or exclusive right to buy agreement. Okay. In that agreement, it talks about, and it talks about a lot, the relationship between the agent and the buyer. Okay.
Mhm.
In that agreement, it does have some language in there about compensation. Okay.
Okay.
But the way business as usual has been going has been, hey, sign this agreement. I represent you. I'm going to get my commission from the listing of that particular house that you choose. Okay. Now there is some language in there that says, hey, if I can't retrieve a commission from, let's say a for sale by owner, then I would like to be compensated by you, the buyer.
Mhm.
Okay. So almost, I want to say majority of the time, I don't want to give any percentages on here. Somebody fact check me. Um, but it's almost like automatic where now it's like, hey, you sign this agency agreement. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna find your house. Whatever the commission they offer me on the MLS, that's what I'm gonna receive from this transaction. Whether
All
it's
right, so pause real quick. Pause real
go
quick,
ahead,
because
Mhm.
I got to know,
go ahead, let's go,
right?
let's go.
So because I'm learning a lot here, because I'm not a real estate agent. I do not hold a real estate license. I work with hundreds of realtors, but I do not practice real estate where I don't drive around in my car showing people properties, right? So I have noticed, right, that a lot of real estate agents have completely different processes, right? Like you said, there is a buyer agency agreement. So my first question is the buyer's agency agreement, is that agreement signed? Is it required to be signed on all transactions when a person goes to close? Is it required? Because some people don't present it to them until they go under contract, but is it a required document to have signature?
Yeah, so a buyer's agency agreement, yes, it is required. However, there's different types of relationships you can have.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Mm.
right. You have single agency where one single agent represents that person. Okay. You can have dual agency where there's a agent in the middle working for the seller and the buyer. Okay.
Okay.
That's dual agency. And then you also have transaction brokerage where, hey, you're hiring me as an agent to just write up the paperwork for you, push documents for you, make sure all documents are signed. No counsel, no none of that. Okay. That's different. All right. So and I think another one is designated agency, but I'm not going to get into that. But those are some agency relationships or relationships between the agent and the buyer. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I see even on the contracts that we get, of course it states what the kind of relationship that the agent is providing to the client.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a client relationship or customer service transaction.
Yep, actually, absolutely. There we go.
All right. So what I've seen a lot of times is that it has been, flooded all over social media. It's been kind of common practice that realtors like to use the language of, you don't compensate me, or you don't have to pay for a realtor. You don't pay for my services. And that's how they, kind of get the client to come on board, per se. They like to throw that out there, like, you don't pay for me, or you don't pay for my services, because it was kind of like a automatic known that these, your commission is going to be compensated by the seller.
Yeah.
Right.
So of course the tedious part of me wants to correct that to a degree, because technically when the buyer buys the house, right, they're funding the commission, if that makes sense. They're funding the whole transaction.
Okay.
So technically,
they
they are to a degree. Okay. However, the commission is negotiated by the listing agent to sell the house. Okay. All right. So I just want to give that tidbit.
But no, you made a great point, because honestly, like I said before, this is more of your lane, your expertise. Like Gavin and I are really just, wish we had some popcorn and get our lesson.
I have a real estate license.
Your license isn't active right now, but you do have one. But to your point, right? To your point, you're absolutely correct, because the buyer's transaction is funding this whole thing, because the buyer is taking out a loan or paying cash. And from that transaction, these items get deducted, and those proceeds are dispersed to various places. So you're absolutely correct.
And the seller is pretty much anticipating this commission being deducted from their proceeds. So they're going to include it in the price of the home. Okay.
Correct.
They're going to include it in the price of the home. So yeah.
So to your point, right? So let's talk about. So we kind of addressed, what is this lawsuit, right? Why did this lawsuit come about? And so now let's move into how does this, or how is it going to truly impact? I know ultimately we don't know, but from what we do know, how do we really know what's going to happen, right? Because if this is now negotiable, or it's not known, right? And there's a quote or saying that compensation drives behavior, right? Especially when you're a commission-based employee or commission-based, that's how you make your living, is off of commission. And so nobody's going to sign up to work for free, right? Nobody's going to go spend their gas, drive you around, do this research, follow up, to not make any money, right? That's the whole purpose. Yes, you're serving your community. Yes, you're doing all these great things. But at the end of the day, you want your paycheck.
Absolutely.
For the time that you're investing. So if that seller is not willing to pay, then now it has to be that conversation. What does that look like to that buyer?
Absolutely. So let's give a scenario, right? Let's say I have a listing appointment with a seller, and I talk to the seller. I says, yes, seller, my commission for this transaction is 6%. And let's just say the seller is like, well, Wilmot, I just heard about the lawsuit, right? Are you going to take the whole 6% for yourself? And I say, well, you're right, Mr. Seller, I can't promote that I'm compensating a buyer's agent. It's like, well, if that's the case, I'm only going to pay you, Wilmot. I'm only going to pay you and I'm only going to pay you 4% or 3%, whatever we agree upon. And I'm gonna say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, if I can work out a deal with the seller for the commission. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. I put this on the MLS, right? And they're saying that we cannot advertise. From what I understand, we cannot advertise a buyer's agent commission. And guys, let me say this: there's a lot of uncertainty about this. I'm just playing it out, what could happen out there. So it might not be a situation where you're helping a buyer and they're looking for a house and they love my house, but there's no buyer's agent commission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At that point where it should have happened a whole lot earlier, to be honest, when they signed the contract with that buyer, the buyer should be willing to compensate that agent whatever fee that they are able to negotiate with their agent. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I had a good question for you guys at the beginning. Can a buyer finance their buyer's agent commission or whatever? And you guys told me
no.
Okay.
So talk on that a little bit, Gavin. Hold on real quick. So talk on that why, and then I'm going to add something to that. So Gavin, why can't the buyer finance their agent's commission into the loan?
Because the commission isn't a part of the value of the home. You can't mortgage something outside of what the home is appraised for.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And it's not it's not something like, it's not property taxes. It's not something that can go into escrows. It's not those. It's just that in alignment with our guidelines and the structure of how a mortgage is how it comes about. Yeah, a commission wouldn't be a valid cost that could be associated or intertwined into the mortgage.
Now, I will say this, LaShawn. I'm going to say this real quick. I have heard this too. So, guys, like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty about how this may play out in the future. But I have heard that possibly seller could help out with closing costs, and it could be maybe some help towards a buyer's agent's commission that way, But my thing is this too. Look at that, right? Mm-hmm. That's taken away from the buyer.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Correct. That's taken away from the buyer being able to utilize that closing costs to take care of maybe some down payment or some of the fees that they have to pay at closing, So yeah. And
mm-hmm. So, let me my take is just kind of back it up a little bit. Even in the scenario with that very first conversation, in my mind, I see it beneficial for all parties when that conversation is being had with a seller about commission. Hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, my commission is 6%. And then, of course, they've seen the lawsuit. I only want to pay you 3%. Well, let me tell you why it's beneficial that we stay at 6% or we go this route, because we're going to want buyers to come in and buy. And for other agents to want to buy your property, there may need to be some compensation to bring their buyers to that property. Because I guess, and this is again, we're just playing out scenarios, but I guess if not, then what can also happen is, let's say a buyer just can't afford to pay a compensation to another buyer. Then you know what they're going to do? Well, I can't afford to pay this agent. So guess what, Mr. Listing Agent, can I want to buy this property? Can you now represent me? And now you, as the listing agent, you want the deal. So now you're working for free. Unless you decide to renegotiate commission.
That brings up a great point, Gavin, because I'm hired by the seller, right? To get them the highest price for the house, right? I still want to sell the house, right? but I'm hired by them. I think about like attorneys in a courtroom, right? You come into the courtroom, they got this person has their attorney, this person has their attorney.
Right.
Okay. Both of them compensating their attorney. And that's kind of the scenario that we're creating right here. And I'm gonna say this, man. I guess because I've been blessed to help a lot of people get into their first home. I've seen, you know, the things that they did not understand, did not know, and the money they save, the different rights that they didn't know about, you know, and being able to help them maneuver buying a home and make it as seamless as possible in a 30 to 45 day time frame, where if you don't understand what you're doing and you go up against a savvy seller or a savvy investor and you're a first time home buyer, you could really get taken advantage of. And I think one of the biggest things I feel a little bit I'm worried about is that first time home buyer that can't afford an agent, but they really want a home, but they don't know how to do this or do that, and they're going to try to do it themselves. And they get into this house and they realize, like, man, I might have overpaid for it. I might have not gotten all my repairs that I wanted done on the house. I might have could have asked for closing costs and I didn't know about that. I didn't stay on task for my due diligence period, so I missed out on this. I didn't get a termite. Well, I needed a termite inspection, but I missed the deadline for that. I didn't know my appraisal rights. I didn't know how to write my own contract. These are all the things I feel like people don't. I think that they are thinking like, hey, this is going to be cheaper, but at what price?
That's so true. Because a couple things that I've seen, and I wanted to add a couple of points here, is like to exactly what you're saying, Wilmot, is I have worked with buyers who were unrepresented, right? And typically when they're unrepresented, they lean heavily on the loan officer or the lender and or the real estate attorney, right? They get the real estate attorney to write their contract, and they look for, myself or Gavin to guide them through the process of what they need. That's what I've seen currently with either buyers that go into like new construction unrepresented, or if there's a whole for sale by owner type of thing. But to your point, people don't know what they don't know. And I think where the challenges are going to come is that a lot of first-time home buyers have no idea of all those things that you just named, all those things you just mentioned about, negotiating due diligence and appraisals and just whatever else on that contract. They have no idea to even ask that stuff. So either they're going to be going through the process just completely blindly and just having to just have their own learning experience. Because what I have seen is that a lot of first-time home buyers, and we work with mainly a bunch of first-time home buyers, they truly can't afford to pay a buyer's agent commission. And so, like you said, this right here is so new and there's so much uncertainty. We don't know exactly what may happen in the future, because what may end up happening is a lot of the what we call investors. So at the end of the day, a lender, we follow the guidelines of our investors. And so the major investors right now are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD for FHA loans and things like that, or for VA Veteran Affairs. And so when this settles down, and depends on how this play out, they may change guidelines, because guidelines are forever changing, where they probably will allow some type of allotment. But typically when it comes to a lender providing some type of credit to help out, these credits are typically coming from a third party, right? They're not coming sometimes directly from that lender. So like, for example, we partner with South Carolina Housing, right? South Carolina Housing is the company, the agency that provides the down payment assistance. And because of their nonprofit status, they're able to provide this to the buyer to cover their down payment or closing costs. it's only $8,000. You know what I mean? It's not enough money to cover down payment, closing costs, and now commission. It's not going to be enough money to do so. Mm-hmm. So to your point, it's going to definitely impact that first-time home buyer if they don't have the funds. And majority of them don't have the funds to do so, especially with the prices of houses, where rates are. You add on, more layer after layer of where we are as an industry. I don't see, however things shake out, I don't see it being like that forever. I think that something is going to have to change down the road in order to make this more affordable.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I just don't see that in regards to a massive change in the industry, to where the mindset or the thought behind this whole thing, where now it's not going to be advertised in the MLS anymore. But I still think that it would be smart, or it would be in the best interest of all parties. Well, not necessarily the seller, when they can avoid from having to pay, the higher commission, the what was typically the normal commission, because I mean, commissions are negotiated, but by, I guess, a rule of thumb, or however you want to put it, typically 6% was the standard, and how the brokerage of whatever that brokerage agreement, it would be, most cases 3% goes to the buyer, 3% goes to the seller, and your normal everyday transaction. From my experience, that has changed quite over the years, with, well, me as a selling agent, the seller might only want to do 5%. So now I'm going to get 3% still as the listing agent, but I'm going to offer 2% to the buying side, or 2.5. We may split it down a difference. But I'm thinking that conversation up front with the seller would be, hey, this is still the commission, and this is still what we would offer to attract, buyers and buyers agents to bring their buyers. I just don't think that to me, it just doesn't make sense for the entirety of the industry for listing agents to not advise their clients to, not to offer any incentive for buyers to come in, to present, to show your property, to do this, because I mean, the point of it is to sell it. Yeah. So, I mean,
that's to your point. I mean, Wilmot, this better, because you do a good ton of listings. I mean, you work with a lot of sellers, right? Yeah. I mean, just in your experience, have you seen where, especially because you have, to me, I feel like you have different buckets of people, right? Of course, you have the buckets of sellers that's like, they're trying to make as much money as possible. They don't want to use a realtor. Typically, you would never even get that call, right? But you have the ones where you do get the call. They want you to help them sell their home. Like, they're motivated to sell. There are certain circumstances in their life they need to sell that house. So I would think in a situation where it's necessary, they need to get this stuff sold, that they'll be willing to, if you're going to be cutting the price of the house or dropping, things off the contract, or trying to, make your house more attractive. To me, that would be a no-brainer to offer, to pay the buyer's commission, because you're trying to get the house sold, right? Maybe I'm looking at that wrong.
So, and like I said, I got to understand this a little bit better myself, guys. So like, what I guess loopholes there might be in ways that we can possibly compensate a buyer's agent, but let's just say that they can't, right? Let's just say they can't, and it's solely dependent on the buyer compensating their agent at that point. I mean, it's going to affect the industry, but I think it's really going to affect, like I said, that first time buyer, but also the agent that mainly focuses on buyers. It's going to affect them, because there are some agents out there that, hey, they don't like working with sellers. They like helping buyers get in homes, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when this law changes, it's really gonna they're gonna really have to, you know, adjust in this new market, or this new with this new law, because not everybody's going to be willing to compensate that buyer's agent. Okay. And right now is kind of it's normal business to think that, hey, I'm gonna be compensated for representing this buyer, you know. However, when that changes, you know, that you might have to have that talk with that buyer and say, hey man, I'm gonna spend all this time helping you, but if I do run into a scenario where I can't get compensated from the other half, and now we see with the mindset, now you got to go in there with the mindset that, hey, are you willing to compensate me for my services?
And I guess so here's so now you
Yeah.
see, I've been thinking about this stuff, right? Honestly,
Yeah.
I feel this is just my little opinion over here. I
Okay.
feel like a lot of realtors are uncomfortable having that conversation. Because just back from the beginning of this episode that we started, you know, when it comes to that buyer agency agreement, a lot of times realtors don't even bring it up. Realtors have shown houses, and they typically, a lot of them don't even ask for it, not up front. And so, I feel like the reason for that is because they don't want to have that conversation. So I think now, to me, I feel like if you are a great agent, you know what you're doing, you have the experience, like your value proposition, you should want to sell yourself, right? You should want to have that conversation of your services and the cost of them.
Well, let me say this. We never really had to.
Yeah, you're right. So
on the buyer side, let me say that. Listing side, yes, we discussed that. That's the elephant in the room. You know, when I'm having that listing presentation with my seller, and we're talking about pricing and everything, and we talk about commission, it's like, hey, this is what I charge as an agent. This is what I provide. You know, at that point, and they're say, hey, yay or nay, and it's like, hey, I'm willing to pay this, I'm willing to pay that, you know, and then we work out something, and then we say, all right, this is the agreement. We send it, and before we actually start getting to work on the on the property, we send that agreement, and now we off and running. I know, and I'm guilty. I don't want to incriminate myself on that. I know that there are agents out there that don't get that buyer's agency sign at first meet or first meeting. But hey, guys, going forward, we're gonna have to adjust. But let me say this before we get off. I want to encourage my agents out there. Okay, I want to encourage you guys, because guess what? Even though this is a wrinkle, it's going to cause some growth.
Yep.
All right. It's going to cause you to adjust. It's going to cause you to adapt. It's going to cause you to become the person you need to become in order to, you know, make the income that you want to make, or be able to be that provider that you want to be. Or you can roll over and find another occupation. I'm saying that in love,
right? Yeah,
it's real. Okay, it's real. Like, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments, and you know, I love my buyers. I love my buyers out there. Lord knows, like, when I got started, that's all I used to work with is buyers. They gave me my start. But understanding the way the climate is changing in real estate, hey, you really have to look at, hey, do I also need to focus on sellers as well? If you're an agent, if you want to still,
I think it's going to be for the good. I think when anytime there's change in the beginning, there's going to be uncomfortable. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, things you don't understand. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're going to question it. But honestly, you know, this is just my little opinion again. I think that this is going to separate the ones who truly. A lot of people jumped into real estate as a hobby, right? As a little side hustle, a way to make some extra money. They didn't really put all the energy and effort into their craft of becoming the best at what they do, right? And I think this right here is going to shake things up a little bit and separate the ones that are here to stay from the ones that's just playing around. And I'll just leave it.
LaShawn, you said it so right. But I want to think that I want to have a positive outlook on this. You know, I want my agents to go out there and really like take this for what it is and say, all right, I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna become a better communicator. I'm gonna become a better agent.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get on the phone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do what I gotta do.
Yep.
And not just say, well, I just gotta find something else to do. You
Correct.
know. So yeah.
I love that. Big dog versus the puppies.
Big dog. Big dog. Big dog.
Well, thank y'all. Gab, anything else you want to say before we wrap up? I know we went a little over.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, with everything, it's going to be something. It's going to get figured out, and I don't think it's going to be a total detriment to either side. I think there's, I think it's more similarity in the sameness that's already existed than we kind of know and can conceptualize right now because of what we anticipate to happen or what we're expecting, what things we're expecting to change. But I think we'll see where things land, and just like anything else, everyone will have to adjust, and everyone will have to figure out how to work together so that all sides benefit. Because it's not going to ever be a change to an environment to where only one side benefits, because there's an equilibrium. In order for sellers to sell, buyers have to buy. And in order for buyers to be happy with the experience, they have to be guided by an expert to do so. And they have to be able to afford these experts. So they'll be an equilibrium.
Yeah, man.
Well said. Well, until next time, we will see you guys next Tuesday, same time, same place. You guys have a great day.
Peace.